Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Brown, good to see you again, and congratulations on your nomination, and thank you for your years of service. General Brown, as we discussed, for the U.S. to be able to successfully defend against all the threats that we face in the 21st century, it's going to be absolutely vital that we are as efficient as possible when it comes to our force structure, as well as understanding our limited manpower resources. And as you know very well, our National Guard comprises a significant portion of both our air and ground combat capabilities. And oftentimes, these units actually have a higher level of experience than their active duty counterparts and are more easily able to meet recruiting as well as retention goals. The National Guard is a critical part of our domestic cyber response and mission assurance duties and plays a key role, I think, or I know, between the Department of State and local officials. In a time when innovation is absolutely critical, National Guard installations are able to easily host private sector partners who are conducting testing and evaluation of emerging technologies. And every year, thousands of National Guardsmen build closer ties and increase interoperability with partners and allies across the globe through the state partnership program. Camp Grayling in my home state in northern Michigan is a place where thousands of U.S. troops train alongside NATO and Indo-PACOM partners every summer during Exercise Northern Strike. And I think it's just one example of the tremendous capabilities our National Guard brings to the total force. Simply put, the United States cannot compete with near-peer competitors, combat long-term insurgencies, implement the national defense strategy, or overcome recruiting and retention challenges without an adequately resourced and empowered National Guard. So my question for you, sir, is what investments does the department need to make in the National Guard to build and to maintain a force able to meet the challenges that our nation will face for the rest of this century?
Well, Senator, I have tremendous value of working with the Air National Guard throughout my career, and having had them under my command in combat operations as well as serving as the Air Force Chief of Staff. I think the key are that a couple things that we have to think through as a joint force, and if confirmed as the chairman, is to ensure that our Guard members have the capabilities with the resources and equipment that is modernized so they can be a frontline institution to be ready to go whenever the nation's called. And then at the same time, it's some of the personnel programs we have to ensure that we're taking care of those members and their families, particularly knowing that they change status as they go on and on active duty or get deployed back and forth. The better we can smooth those processes, that helps us out. And then the last thing I would kind of highlight is that the work we do on the active side and how we ensure that the process to retain that talent and bring it over into the Guard or the reserve component. And there's areas that sometimes we make it a little more difficult than it has to be. We may lose an opportunity with a great service member who decides to go do something else. But the value that our Guard provides, whether it's because of their dual status of their civilian career and their military career, I've been a great proponent of the state partnership program that has done tremendous work for our allies and partners. And so the Guard, both the Air and Army Guard, are great assets to our joint force.
Right. Well, it's good to hear that. General Brown, when you assumed the position of Air Force Chief of Staff, you issued a directive for airmen, quote, to accelerate change or lose. You described this concept as a necessity for the Air Force to be able to dominate in a very dynamic, rapidly changing security environment. As chairman, if confirmed, you would have great influence on bringing this type of attitude to what is perhaps the most risk-adverse bureaucratic organization in the world. So my question for you, sir, is what are the biggest challenges that you can identify to having the department embrace this culture, which I think is essential, of accelerating change?
Well, one of the areas that I've found is I try to do this as and I have made some progress, and I've been happy with some of the progress I've made in certain areas as the Air Force Chief, but at the same time, there's some areas that I'm not as happy about. The challenge there is having all of our service members understand the big picture and why this is so important, why we need to modernize, and what's at stake. And from that perspective, then you step away from your own parochial interests, and then we do what's best, not just for your part of the organization, but what's best for the entire organization. That's how I've approached it as the Air Force Chief of Staff. If confirmed, that's exactly the way I approached it as a chairman, as a Joint Chief. And having served as a Joint Chief, I've had to be able to do the same. We got to be able to do that a bit more across the force, and put what's best out front for the force to ensure we're doing the right things to protect the nation and our national interest.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Senator Mullen, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Going